You know, math is all about getting the exact right, precise answer. But you know what? Math is also about sometimes estimating, just getting a vague sense of roughly how big or how small something is to give us a sense, an order of magnitude, you might say. So actually, let's take a look at a question where we're not going to get the exact answer, but we're going to get a sense. We're going to actually estimate and see how big something is. In fact, this one I think you're going to enjoy because it's a tasty example. It involves hamburgers. Let's check it out. So, the food stand at the zoo sold 2,892 pounds of hamburger last month. Now, the average cost of a pound of hamburger is $3. Jeremy estimates that about $9,000 worth of hamburger was sold last month. Now, here's our challenge, given all this information. Is the exact answer less than or greater than the estimate of $9,000? And I want us to answer this riddle without actually figuring out the exact amount of worth in dollars the hamburger that was sold. So let's just think about this. What I want to do is take a look at this complicated number, 2,892. It's even hard to say. You try saying it, 2,892. Not so easy. That's right. So let's see if we can find easy numbers that are kind of roughly comparable in size. Now, when I think about this, here's what I see. I see, you know what? If you're looking at the number 2,892, well, you know what? That's between two numbers. One that's a little bit smaller, that would be 2,000, and one that's a little bit bigger. In fact, just a hair bigger. This is actually a lot smaller, but this is a hair bigger than 3,000. Now, those are easier numbers for me, and we know that the actual number is somewhere in between. So why don't we use this value and this value, the small value and this large value, to produce estimates and see about the estimate given by Jeremy. So let's see. Suppose there were 2,000 pounds of hamburger sold. Well, since the hamburger cost $3 per pound on average, then what do we see? Well, then what I'm going to do here, in this case, is I'm going to consider 3 times 2,000. Now, that's actually really easy to figure out because 3 times 2,000, well, it's 2 thousands. So if I have 3 times 2, that's 6, and so I have 6,000. So I see 6,000. So there's 6,000. And what if I look at this one? Well, here I see 3, because it's still $3 per pound, times, let's say, 3,000 pounds. That's a bigger number than the actual number. Well, 3 thousands, what's 3 times 3? That's 9, so it's 9 thousands. So this is going to be 9,000 pounds. And what's the actual product? Now, we're not going to compute it, but we can certainly write it. And if we were to write it, we would write the following. We would say 3 times 2,892, and I want to box that in by itself so you know that's the actual thing. It has nothing to do with the other ones. That's just a separate thing. Okay, so that's the mystery number. We don't want to compute that, but we can look at these two numbers, and these represent approximations. Now, Jeremy said it was about 9,000. Notice that the 9,000 actually came from the overestimate to 3,000, which means that, in fact, the exact answer must in fact be less than the $9,000 estimate because we used a larger number to replace the exact, and we estimated with a larger number, so we multiplied by 3, we got a larger answer. And so what we see is a couple things. First of all, we also see that the exact answer must be larger than 6,000 and smaller than 9,000, so the exact answer, in fact, must be between $6,000 and $9,000. And we can say that the exact answer, which is what we just said, will be, in fact, less than the estimate because this estimate that Jeremy gave was actually an overestimate. So it's interesting, though, even though we don't know the exact amount of worth of hamburger that was sold in dollars, we know that it's going to be something less than 9,000 and probably a lot bigger than 6,000. And so we have an estimate. And in fact, you know, all this estimation actually makes me hungry. In fact, thinking and doing any kind of intellectual thing burns calories, and so it makes me hungry. And so, in fact, I actually used to work at that food stand at the zoo. I actually did, no joke. And so I think I'm going to enjoy one of the hamburgers that I saved from long ago. I'm sure it's fine. I refrigerated it. Delicious. Almost as tasty as math riddles. Have fun thinking about math and estimating, and I'll see you soon.
Zoom recording. Okay, guys, so let's do some examples of estimating to find the product by rounding. So if I have the number 300, or 3 times 567, I want to find the product by estimating. So I'm going to estimate 567 to the nearest 100. That's your largest place value. I go next door to my 6. My 6 tells me the 5 is rounding up to 6. So this comes 6, and then you add your zeros for your 10s and your 1s. So now you have 3 times 600. Don't forget that you need to add zeros for all the place values that are smaller than the one that you're rounding to. So now let's multiply. 3 times 6 equals 18. I have my 0 and 0. So that's 1,800. So another example. If I have 8 times 4,326, let's estimate to find the product. I'm going to have 4,326 right here. Going to round it to the nearest thousands, my largest place value. So I have a 4 in my thousands. I have a 3. That 3 tells me I'm rounding down according to the rule. So my 4 is going to round down, and it's going to stay the same. I'm going to put a 0 in the hundreds, a 0 in the tens, and a 0 in the ones. I'm going to multiply my 4,000 times my 8. 8 times 4 is 32. And I have 0, 0, and 0. 3 zeros. All right, let's look at my next one. You ready? 3 times 78. Okay? I'm going to estimate to find the product. So I'm going to start with 78 as the one number that I'm going to round to multiply. I'm going to round to my nearest 10 because there's a 7 in my 10s. So 7 in my 10s, let's go next door to my 8. Then 8 tells me I'm rounding up. So if I have 7 10s, one more 10 would be 8 10s. I add a 0 from my 1. So 78 rounds up to 80. I'm going to multiply that by 3. So now I have 3 times 8, which is equal to 24. And I have 1 0. So it's 240. Okay, this is what you're doing on your problems when you're estimating to find the product. You're rounding the biggest number and then you're multiplying. So if I have, let's see, 6 times 3,946. I want to estimate to find the product. Okay, I'm going to round 3,946 to my nearest thousands place value because that is my largest place value. Okay, so in my thousands, let's go next door. There's a 9. According to the rule, when there's a 9, you have to round up. So if I have 4 thousands or 3 thousands, it rounds up to 4. Okay, and 3,946 is closer to 4,000. I'm going to multiply 4,000 times my 6. 6 times 4 equals 24. And then I'm going to add 0, 0, 0 in my answer. So that's 24,000. Okay? If you need help when working on your problems, refer back to this video of the introduction from your Go Math chapter captains, or look at the video with my examples to help you. Okay? Do your best on the work that you're working on.